Valentino Rossi wearing that Barishine number 7 pin badge, starting from pole position for the 8th time this season. And he's never been off the podium all year. What a run for Valentino Rossi, the world champion, deservedly so. Could be riding for Yamaha, could be riding for Ducati next season. Will he be on this bike? It's going to be ridden today by Loris Capirossi on the front row for the 50th time in the Premier class. Second on the grid for Capirossi, and looking to improve on a bad run of results in recent weeks. Sete Gibernau, the championship is over for him, but the fight is still on for second place. Titanium Pedrosa, get well soon, we are with you. That's from Sete Gibernau. The message, of course, to Danny Pedrosa, the 125cc world champion, who underwent a few operations in Melbourne after breaking both his ankles in the first free practice on Friday morning. And Pedrosa, I'm sure, will be watching this race from his hospital bed. Here's Troy Bayliss on the outside of the front row. What a big race for him.
Certainly is, and he's had his ups and downs. 2 crashes in the morning warm-up, a crash in qualifying yesterday. He's won 2 World Superbike races here. He's ridden here many, many times on his way up through the Australian Championships. He made his Grand Prix debut here on a 250cc Suzuki. The crowd are absolutely behind him. I've got to say, he's very relaxed about it all. And it's a big, big race for Troy Bayliss. And, well, we wait and see. What a performance by this man. He just gets better and better every time we see him race. 22 years old. Nicky Hayden, the AMA Superbike champion. I think many people regard this man as a future world champion. He's qualified 5th fastest on the second row of the grid. Repeat of his qualifying position at Motegi 2 weeks ago. And alongside him, he's got some pretty big characters. Max Biaggi, of course, who won the Pacific race 2 weeks ago in Japan, currently lying 3rd in the championship. He's also won here at Phillip Island on the 500cc Yamaha. Looks up at the sky as everybody else has done. Max Biaggi has qualified 6th fastest on the second row of the grid. Good performance.
I'm just breaking there, Nick. Sorry, I'm just down here on the grid with Jeremy Burgess. Jeremy, some difficult conditions down here. You're not being kind to us, you Australians.
Oh, it seems to be dry now. Valentino said it's pretty much dry all the way around. It doesn't look like there's much up above us, and hopefully we'll get an hour where we don't have any problems.
Yeah, that's what we hope. There's a dry racing line formed at the end of 250s, but did Valentino say if anything offline, if there were maybe some damp patches around there?
Oh, I'm sure there are damp patches around, but he's comfortable with the slicks, and I see Loris Capirossi went from a cut slick to a slick, so I think everything's all right.
Okay, thanks very much, Jerry, and all the best for your home race.
Thank you very much.
Jeremy Burgess, of course, the crew chief to Valentino Rossi, the world champion. We're looking at Turo Okawa, who's qualified 8th fastest on the second row of the grid. Teammate to Max Biaggi, really fighting for his MotoGP future. Turo Okawa, he needs some big results. Alongside him, we just got a glimpse a moment ago, Marco Mandry, the 250cc world champion. In fact, clinched the championship here a year ago. He's qualified 7th, and he needs some good results also. We come on to the third row of the grid. The Spaniard, Carlos Checa, riding the Yamaha. He's qualified 9th fastest at 1:31.302 for Carlos Checa. His MotoGP future, I won't say is in the balance, but where will he be riding next season? 2 good results here and in Valencia in 2 weeks' time may be a big, big help. And we look at the tyre changes once again. This is the Proton KR machine of Jeremy McWilliams. Brilliantly qualified in 10th place on the 4-stroke. For the first time ever, he's qualified faster on the 4-stroke than he had done on the 500cc 2-stroke. One would imagine they're changing that front tyre, that Bridgestone front tyre, to a slick tyre rather than a hand-cut slick.
Nick, just about the weather that we've got at the moment, it is pretty nice at the moment, but there are some looming dark clouds and the wind is moving this way, and they're behind you in the commentary box. That means they are actually coming towards the track. I hate to be the bringer of bad news, but there have been a few spots in the air on this grid at the moment, and well, I don't know. I'm going to have a good look at the Proton in a second. I'm just alongside Gary McCoy, hoping we can get a word with him in a second, but yeah, just to see if the Proton, whether they may be taking a gamble here, they may be risking going with a cut front slick. It may be a risk worth taking for them. I don't know.
I think you're right, Gavin. I think somebody may take a risk. The Kawasaki's, the Protons, the WCMs, people who aren't going to perhaps get up the field very easily if the race stays dry. They may just take a risk and hope the rain will come. Of course, it can misfire very badly indeed. Welcome back, John Hopkins, the 4th row of the grid. He's qualified 13th fastest. Of course, John was well, banned, I suppose is the word to say, from the Malaysian Grand Prix after that first lap crash in Motegi 2 weeks ago. Race direction decided that it was an accident, that it could have been avoided. There's been a lot of controversy since then about the accident.
I'll just break in again,
yes,
Nick.
Certainly.
I'm just down here on the grid with Gary McCoy. Gaz, the best qualifying result for the Kawasaki. You looked a lot more comfortable. Is it the home race? Is the bike improving? Is it the track that you know like the back of your hand?
You know, for sure a little bit it's the home race, but as well it's a track that the bike seems to, you know, doesn't seem to be going too bad around. Like in Brazil, we had the same thing. You know, we're just turning up to new tracks, and you know, we're just finding out how they work at each track as we get to them.
And with the conditions here today, it looks to be drying. There seems to be a few clouds, a lot of wind. Will that be affecting you during the race, do you think?
Yeah, for sure. Just on that sighting lap, it's a little bit windy around the back, and it's kind of pushing the bikes a little bit offline, so it's going to be pretty tough.
Okay, well, all the best for your home race here, guys.
No worries, thank you.
Well, I don't know what it's like down there, Gav, but it's still cold up here in the commentary box. It's a chilly, chilly day here at Phillip Island. And as you can see, Alex Barros has got his woolly gloves on. The sun may be out, but that grid girl there, she's going blue almost, isn't she? I don't know if I'm doing her a disservice. It might be the reflection off the umbrella, but it's certainly very cold. Barros removes his woolly gloves. He's about to put his racing gloves on as we get underway here at Phillip Island.
It's round 15 of the championship. Ricardo Tamada, he's really impressed us in the last two races. Perhaps didn't impress race direction 2 weeks ago at Motegi when he was excluded from the results after finishing third, but he's not done so well here in the dry conditions with the Bridgestone tyres. But well, I suppose people get fed up with us talking about tyres and the weather, but it is absolutely crucial what the weather is going to do here. What the weather does here in the next 45 minutes will decide the outcome of this race, and I'm really interested to know, Gavin, if anybody's taking some big gambles.
I can't see, obviously they've all got tyre warmers on at the moment. I can't really tell you if anyone is taking gambles. Most people are going with a dry setup. That's obviously with the carbon brakes and things like that. Aprilia on their brakes, they have a sort of shield on the actual brake discs themselves to sort of keep them warm, because in these cold conditions, carbon brakes really don't like it at all. They like to be hot, and obviously if there are conditions like this, if the temperatures do drop, then they're not going to be as hot as they used to be. But it seems everyone's gone with a dry setup. Front tyres slick, rear tyres slick. So at the moment it's like that. I think they're just going to say if it does rain, the race is going to be stopped and restarted. So we might as well go with the dry setup for the time being.
Yeah, that is certainly the case, isn't it? If it's if it's declared a dry race, everybody who's out there on slicks is going to be in a decent position. Then if it starts to rain, they're just going to call them in and give them a chance to change onto wet tyres anyway. So I can't really see the advantage in taking any sort of gamble here. Valentino Rossi, certainly not. He's on pole position. He's going to ride with slicks from the start. Nobuatsu Aoki had a big crash on Friday. He was taken to hospital. He missed the Friday afternoon qualifying session with it was just turned out to be a stiff neck, but he was taken up to Melbourne for x-rays, but he's back, he's fit, he's on the grid in 20th place.
Crashed that in the morning warm-up, as did so many other people. Andrew Pitt, the former World Supersport champion, in front of his home crowd, riding the Kawasaki, 6th row of the grid. He's qualified in 21st place.
Real shame that for Andrew Pitt. He was 12th fastest on the first day, but he couldn't get a lap in yesterday. And Ryuichi Kiyonari on the 6th row in 22nd. Talk of him going to the British Superbike Championship next season. And perhaps even Colin Edwards taking his place alongside Sete Gibernau. We will see. David De Gea on the WCM, the Spanish rider, also on the 6th row in 23rd place.
Yeah, he's ridden pretty well on that WCM in very difficult circumstances. Now, I think there's a man that everybody feels sorry for. He's yet to finish a MotoGP race. He's got 2 to go this season. The 23-year-old Geordie, Chris Burns, he's qualified 24th. All he wants to do is say he's finished a MotoGP race. And if you finish a MotoGP race here at Phillip Island, you've certainly got something to be proud about. 27 laps of this 4.448 kilometre, 2.764 miles Phillip Island circuit. It's the rider's favourite. The weather is clearing up. The penultimate round of the MotoGP World Championships.
The front row, Troy Bayliss, Sete Gibernau, Loris Capirossi, and on pole position, it's the doctor, it's Valentino Rossi.
Well, it's going to be interesting on this sighting lap, just to have a look at the conditions. It obviously is drying out a great deal. They were 27 laps, front row confirmed. Rossi, Capirossi, Gibernau, Bayliss, Honda versus Ducati.
Rossi getting away really quickly there for that warm-up lap. Second row, Nicky Hayden, Max Biaggi, Marco Melandri and Toru Ukawa.
Third row, Carlos Checa, Jeremy McWilliams, Shinya Nakano and Gary McCoy.
The fourth row, John Hopkins, Kenny Roberts, Olivier Jacques and Alex Barros.
Jacques winning the 250cc championship here, 3 years ago. Fifth row, Tamada, Edwards, Haga and Aoki.
And the sixth and final row, Pitt, Chianari, De Gea and Chris Burns. I was just saying how quickly Rossi got away from the line there. You can see he's absolutely miles ahead of the rest on this warm-up lap. He's really going quickly. I'm not sure if he's just wanting to test out and push on this warm-up lap and see what these conditions are like. It really is the key for the riders to know how hard they can push it on the opening laps of the race.
I would think that's exactly what he's doing, wouldn't you? Going a little bit harder than you would expect, just to push it to the limit, just to see exactly where that racing line is and how dry the track is. The blue sea, magnificent view there of the Bass Strait. You'd have been here half an hour ago, you wouldn't have seen any of that. The rain was sleeting down here, absolutely sideways, misty and cold. Conditions are better. It's going to be dry. It's going to be, I won't say perfect conditions for the penultimate round of the championship, but it's going to be very, very good race. Can Bayliss prevent Rossi winning?
Just some very interesting things down here in pit lane. Obviously all the teams have their spare bikes down here, and just some bikes have wet front tyres, some bikes have wet front setups, but they have a dry tyre in there. They've got steel brakes in on some bikes. A whole range of different bikes down here, just in case there's a problem with these bikes as they come round now, and just in case the rain starts to fall.
Well, things could get very, very complicated here at Phillip Island today, but there's nothing complicated about the start. It's a dry start. It's a full complement on the grid. And once again, Valentino Rossi, for the 8th time this season, will start from pole position.
Rossi chasing his 8th Grand Prix win of the season. He's won here at Phillip Island in 500cc, MotoGP, and two 250cc wins. It's going to be 27 laps of the riders' favourite circuit here at Phillip Island in Australia. It's the penultimate round of the MotoGP World Championship. The green flag is shown, the red flag is taken away, the lights will go to red, and racing will be underway here at Phillip Island. The Australian Grand Prix starts.
Excellent start from the two Ducatis, Troy Bayliss and Loris Capirossi, sandwiching Tete Gibernau there in the front row. And one of the Hondas has come through as well. Is it Max Biaggi who leads into the first corner? Max Biaggi from the second row in 6th place, and he runs it wide at the start, and it's Loris Capirossi, or is it Troy Bayliss who leads the way?
I think it's Capirossi that leads the way. Tete Gibernau in 2nd place. Biaggi got a great start from the second row of the grid, then ran it a little bit wide. Rossi is also in there. Down towards the hairpin they come.
Yeah, it's Bayliss who's leading the way. Nick Bayliss first. Melandri has got an absolutely fantastic start as well. Also from the second row, he's in 4th place now. So it's Bayliss from Gibernau. Melandri now to 3rd from Capirossi, then Biaggi, then Hayden. Valentino Rossi behind his teammate.
Bayliss leads the way. Bayliss in front of his home crowd. Tete Gibernau in 2nd place. The pack stream through, up through Siberia. Dry line certainly appearing, dry line certainly there. Troy Bayliss, he crashed twice in the morning warm-up, he crashed in qualifying, he won 2 World Superbike races here last year, and he leads the way in front of the Australian crowd as they race down towards Lukey Heights.
Into this right-hand hairpin for the first time. This is where Troy Bayliss crashed out this morning in the warm-up. Valentino Rossi already looking to make progress. He's got past Max Biaggi there, so's Nicky Hayden. But Bayliss now coming around the fast left, 4th gear left-hander that comes round into the start-finish straight. The Australian on the Ducati runs it wide into the entry, into the start-finish straight, and Gibernau has come through. So Tete Gibernau will lead the way as they cross the line for the first time. It's Gibernau, Bayliss, Melandri and Capirossi.
200 miles an hour, they break for the right-hander, doing corner 3rd gear. Tete Gibernau leads, Bayliss still in 2nd place. Great ride by Melandri in 3rd place. He clinched the 250cc title here last year, and here comes Valentino Rossi.
Rossi's got past Hayden into 5th place, so Rossi wasting no time to make his move through the field after making a fairly disappointing start from pole position, but it's the Honda of Gibernau, then the Ducati of Bayliss, and then the Yamaha of the 250cc former world champion Marco Melandri, current world champion Marco Melandri. That title still to be decided, of course, in the 250 class. Here comes Melandri. He won the title at this track 1 year ago, and he's absolutely flying now. He's got past Bayliss. He's up to second place.
Nicky Hayden still in front of Valentino Rossi. So at the front, Melandri now challenging Sete Gibernau. Melandri takes the lead. The Yamaha leads the Honda. They almost touch as they go through the top of Siberia. Melandri leads. Bayliss trying to go up the inside there of Gibernau. Doesn't do so. They're now going to plunge down Lucky Heights any moment now. They plunge now. Melandri leads the way. Gibernau second. Bayliss third. Capirossi, Hayden, Rossi. And then it looks like Max Biaggi and Toru Okawa.
Yeah, Nicky Hayden's got back past Valentino Rossi. I'll get my words the right way around eventually, but yeah, Hayden absolutely flying now. He's got back past Rossi. A real scrap now going on. Biaggi and Okawa just losing touch a little bit with this lead group.
They cross the line. 25 laps to go of this Australian Grand Prix. The penultimate round of the championship. Here comes Bayliss up the inside of Gibernau. They're absolutely side by side. Bayliss back into second place. 150 miles an hour round the right-hander. Melandri leads. Bayliss second. Gibernau third. Capirossi fourth. And Rossi now up into fifth place in front of Nicky Hayden.
Yeah, Nicky Hayden was the fastest man of the circuit on that past lap as he got past Rossi and up to fifth place, but he wasn't able to hang on to it as they came down the straight for the second time. Rossi out of the slipstream into the fast right at the end of the straight, and Rossi now back up to fifth position.
Bayliss on the brakes, trying to go up the inside of Marco Melandri, doesn't do so. Melandri leads, Bayliss second. Sete Gibernau, big crash during Friday morning practice, 180 miles an hour. Loris Capirossi, Hayden fights back. You don't do this against the world champion, you don't do this against your teammate. The American AMA champion does just that. We ride with Rossi, it's his teammate Nicky Hayden in front of him.
What a ride this really is from Nicky Hayden. Up into fifth place and really making great strides. He could have taken pole position, you know, in the final qualifying yesterday. He was on a pole lap. He could have snatched it from Valentino Rossi, but he got held up by Sete Gibernau. He's not getting held up by Loris Capirossi, that's for sure. Hayden goes through on Capirossi and he's up to fourth place.
Valentino Rossi wanted to come through as well. There just wasn't room for him to go past Capirossi. We ride with the world champion Valentino Rossi. Loris Capirossi in front of him. Third gear, fourth gear around this very, very fast left-hander. Brings them back into the start and finish straight. 200 miles an hour down here. Rossi now lining up Capirossi, but Capirossi's Ducati just too fast for the Hondas. They break for the right-hander. Here comes Rossi once again, but Melandri leads away from Bayliss. Gibernau, Nicky Hayden, has Rossi got through? He has. Rossi has got past Loris Capirossi. We always get good racing at Phillip Island. This is fantastic. And the fastest lap of the race to Max Biaggi.
Max Biaggi in seventh and closing in on that lead group. There you can see him on the number 3 Honda. Well, it was an important point for Max Biaggi to set that time and keep in touch with the lead group. And there goes Bayliss. He's almost touched with Melandri. Bayliss over the top of his Ducati and down. And well, Bayliss, it looks as though he's out cold there because he hasn't moved. And that could be very serious. Now, let's have a look. Let's just... at the front, Gibernau has gone through. Nicky Hayden's gone through as well. Marco Melandri was pushed wide when we saw. Now let's have a look what happens. Nicky Hayden's going to take the lead. Nicky Hayden in front of Sete Gibernau. Hayden leads from Gibernau. Melandri now up on the inside of Gibernau as well, but Gibernau hangs on to second place. So it's Hayden, Gibernau, Melandri, then Rossi and Capirossi, and Biaggi closing in. But, well, let's just keep our fingers crossed for Troy Bayliss.
Nicky Hayden leads the way from Sete Gibernau, Melandri, Rossi, Loris Capirossi. Any news we have on Troy Bayliss, obviously we will bring it to you as soon as we can. They're round the left-hander, the fast left-hander that brings them back into the start and finish straight. Nicky Hayden wanted to finish on the podium fair and square, he said, after being awarded third place at MotoGP. Look again at the crash. Bayliss on the brakes on the outside. I don't think he quite touches the rear end there of Marco Melandri's Honda, but he falls very, very awkwardly indeed. We wait for any news. We have a new race leader. It's Marco Melandri that leads the way. Nicky Hayden in second place. Valentino Rossi is right in there in third. Loris Capirossi has gone past Sete Gibernau. What a race at the front. Nicky Hayden up the inside now of Marco Melandri. Hayden back in front. Melandri back into second place. And we wait for any news on Troy Bayliss. Here comes Valentino Rossi trying to go up the inside of Marco Melandri. Doesn't do so.
Fastest man on the circuit at the moment, Olivier Jacques, and he's brought a few men with him as well. Look, there goes Toru Okawa. In fact, Okawa up on the inside of Jacques. So One man we've lost from that group, by the way, Max Biaggi has disappeared. I'm not sure what's happened to Biaggi, but this group has really bunched up at the front.
Max Biaggi has just actually gone down the straight, not sure at all what's happened to him, but he's just gone down the straight now.
So Max Biaggi out of this fight at the lead group. The race leader, though, Nicky Hayden from his teammate Valentino Rossi. Hayden leads, Rossi second, Mandry third. The fastest man on the circuit, as I was saying, Olivier Jacques in 7th place. A real group at the front. Here comes Rossi. He's had enough of this battling now around with these rookies, with Hayden and Mandry. Rossi in control.
Rossi leads the way as they come into the fast left. 3rd gear, 4th gear. Down the straight, 200 miles an hour. Valentino Rossi, chasing his 8th Grand Prix victory of the season, leads the way. Max Biaggi has had problems. Troy Bayliss has crashed out of the race. What a start to the penultimate round of the championship, but it's now got a familiar feel to it. Down the straight they go. The Gardner Straight, named after Wayne Gardner. Mandry up the inside of Nicky Hayden. This is an extraordinary ride by Marco Mandry. Easily the best rider we've seen from the 250cc world champion on a MotoGP bike. Nicky Hayden still in 3rd place. Loris Capirossi 4th. And Troy Bayliss now being taken off on the stretcher.
Yeah, there's a wave there from Troy Bayliss. His neck's in a brace, but he's conscious. And a wave to the Australian crowd. Thank goodness for that. Troy Bayliss is okay, and now we can enjoy this MotoGP race. What a thrilling ride it is at the front. The 2 rookies, Hayden and Mandry. They've come of age in this, the 15th and penultimate round of the 2003 season. But it looks as though Rossi's going to start stretching them out now at the front.
Akawa 6, Jacques 7, Checker 8, Nakano 9, Barros 10, Roberts 11, McCoy 12, McWilliams in 13th place, Hopkins 14th, Pitt 15th, 16th, Colin Edwards.
Nicky Hayden just having a bite at Marco Mandry once more there in 3rd position. Mandry doing so well in 2nd place. He was the highest qualified Yamaha on the grid in 7th place on the 2nd row. And he's by far the highest Yamaha in the race. His teammate Carlos Checker there in the background. But Mandry, without a doubt, having the ride of his life in the MotoGP class. As I say, he won the title here 1 year ago in the 250cc class. He obviously likes it. He's got good memories for him. And, well, fingers crossed there will be more good memories of this circuit for Marco Mandry. We saw him ride superbly well, remember, at Donington when he was up there in the front group for those opening laps. Then he crashed out at the chicane from 4th place. Let's hope Marco Mandry can hang in there and keep fighting with these guys at the front.
Valentino Rossi now opening up a bit of advantage. Hayden up into 2nd place, up the inside there of Marco Mandry. So Hayden now 2nd, Mandry 3rd, Capirossi 4th, Gibernau in 5th place, Torakawa going very well in 6th place. The gap now just over 1 second. Hayden takes up the chase against his teammate, the world champion Valentino Rossi, as they break for the hairpin. 20.5 laps to go. Mandry back up the inside of Nicky Hayden. They're chopping and changing. It's more like a 125cc race. And Mandry just hangs on there. No, he doesn't. Hayden is back in 2nd place. Mandry 3rd. Gibernau 4. Capirossi 5. Torakawa in 6th place.
Nicky Hayden absolutely desperate to finish on the podium here. Of course, he did take a podium finish 2 races ago at Motegi when Makoto Tamada was disqualified, but that wasn't until an hour after the race, and Hayden never got the chance to stand on the rostrum itself. He could get that chance here in Australia this weekend. The sun is shining here at Phillip Island. The track is warming up. The racing is warming up. And, well, the championship's already in the pocket of the race leader, Valentino Rossi, but there's plenty to play for still here.
There is some kind of rain falling. It's hardly rain, I can say, but in the wind there are water drops falling in the air as Valentino Rossi comes down the main straight. There aren't clouds overhead, but there's definitely some kind of rain falling on the circuit.
Marco Mandry back up the inside of Nicky Hayden. Here comes Sete Gibernau also. Mandry back into 2nd. Hayden 3rd. Gibernau looking threatening in 4th place. Tighter line. And Torakawa having a very good ride just in front of Loris Capirossi. Mandry and Hayden, you'd say the future of MotoGP rests in their hands. They look very, very capable hands at the moment.
Torakawa, as you rightly saying it, riding very, very well there and beginning to threaten Sete Gibernau. Okawa finished on the podium here last year. He hasn't finished on the podium since then, so he likes this track. Nicky Hayden, though, up on the inside of Mandry. Once again, Hayden back up to 2nd. It's all fun and games between the 2 rookies, and they look like they're enjoying it.
The gap now between Valentino Rossi and who's ever in 2nd place at the moment, it is Nicky Hayden, is 1.3 seconds. So Rossi just opening up the advantage, but what a race we've got for 2nd place. Hayden, Mandry, Gibernau, Turakawa's got in front of Loris Capirossi. Carlos Checa, Olivier Jacques 8, Nakano 9, Barros 10, Kenny Roberts in 11th place, McWilliams currently in 14th place, and Colin Edwards, the former World Superbike Championship, down in 17th place.
There's a bit of talk going on in the pit lane that maybe Valentino Rossi, when he went past Marco Mandry, was under a yellow flag because that's where Troy Bayliss was. So that's the talk going round down at the moment in the pit lane, that Valentino Rossi, we've already seen at Donington, he passed under the yellow flag there, Loris Capirossi, and had 10 seconds knocked off his time. Again, there's a worry in the pit lane, and that might happen again.
Well, absolutely on the ball, Gavin, in pit lane. We wait for developments there, and obviously, Gavin, anything we find out about Troy Bayliss, but we did see away from Troy Bayliss as he was taken away on the stretcher because he fell very nastily indeed.
Marco Melandri up to second at the end of the straight, but Nicky Hayden takes it back as they come through the southern loop, runs it a little bit wide, and then Melandri's back up on the inside. They almost touch. As they come up the back straight, the sea breeze blows in from the right-hand side. Sete Gibernau, a close spectator there in fourth place. They head up the hill towards the Honda corner, hard on the brakes, into the right-hander, second gear. And Nicky Hayden runs it wide, and Gibernau, Ukawa and Capirossi all go through.
Well, Nicky Hayden has got it all to do again. A mistake by the American, just running a little bit wide. Here we watch, he's on the brakes. Ah, yes, it's just nowhere for him to go. He's just got to put it straight for a moment, momentarily straight. And in MotoGP, if you do that, the pack just streamed through. But don't give up on Hayden. He'll be back fighting for that to second or third place. Melandri now second, Gibernau third, Akawa 4, Capirossi 5, 6th place Nicky Hayden, and in 7th place Carlos Checa and Olivier Jacques, both on the Yamaha. Shinya Nakano 10, and Alex Barros 10, and Kenny Roberts in 11th place.
Big wobble there for Marco Melandri. You can tell how hard he's pushing that Yamaha to stay with these Hondas. A really superb ride from the youngster in his first season in the MotoGP class, riding a four-stroke. Never ridden a four-stroke before, never ridden anything so big as this 990cc Yamaha. But he's really doing ever so well there in second place.
Season started in disaster for him. Loris Capirossi gets up the inside of Toru Okawa. Of course, Marco Melandri broke his leg in 2 places at the opening Grand Prix of the season. In practice, the opening Grand Prix of the season at Suzuka in Japan. It's taken a long time to recover. He's flying in second place. Sete Gibernau third. Loris Capirossi now in 4th place. Turakawa 5th. Rossi at the hairpin. Capirossi now just starting to push the Ducati beyond the limit. Let's see what the Ducatis can do against the Honda and the Yamaha. Behind Nicky Hayden, Carlos Checa right behind him. Carlos Checa in 7th place. So really, Rossi's running away at the front. 2.4 second advantage. Then the battle is between Melandri, Gibernau, Akawa, Capirossi, Hayden and Checa.
New circuit record for Valentino Rossi, that lap of 132.161. Even in these cruel conditions here at the Phillip Island circuit, the pace this year has been so much quicker. Rossi's pole time was around 2 seconds quicker than the previous pole record here, set of course by Jeremy McWilliams last year on the 2-stroke Proton. But Rossi was riding the 4-stroke Honda here last year, and like I tell you, he went 2 seconds quicker this time around. A lot of that to do with the fact that Michelin brought sticky qualifiers here this year, which they didn't do last year. But even so, the class and the pace of this MotoGP class has moved up a step. Melandri crosses the line, still in second place, hanging on now from Sete Gibernau, who looks at the inside at the end of the straight, in third place. Then it's Capirossi still, and Okawa and Nicky Hayden just dropping off slightly. Here comes Capirossi up on the inside of Gibernau. Capirossi up to third place. 3 Italians now in the top 3. Rossi out on his own at the front. Then it's Melandri holding off Capirossi, and Gibernau, the Spaniard, in 4th.
Behind him we have Toru Okawa, Nicky Hayden and Carlos Checa.
Alex Barros into the pits as well. It looks like he's going to retire from this one.
Gavin, any more news on that yellow flag controversy?
I don't think that it's happened. There's nothing going on down here at the moment. I'm sure they're probably looking at the tapes, but I'm sure we'd have seen something. There was so much controversy after it happened last time. I'm sure they'd be right on the ball this time, but no, not heard anything. I've asked about Troy Bayliss' condition either. No news so far.
Well, there is Max Biaggi, and we're still not quite sure what happened to him. He disappeared from this group at the front, and he's way down the field now in 22nd place. Here comes Valentino Rossi down into the hairpin over Lukey Heights, and then this fairing bashing second group. It's a shame that Rossi's not still involved in it, but he has been a cut apart during qualifying. We did expect him to split at the front of this pack, and it's what he's done. He enjoyed those first few laps, I'm sure, but perhaps thought, I'm getting out of the way of these guys, because the way that Hayden and Mandry were going at it was quite something. And I think now things have just settled down for now, but I'm sure they're about to pick up as they come down the end of the straight. Capirossi on the Ducati gets in front of the Yamaha of Marco Mandry. Capirossi now up to second, but runs it wide, and can Mandry take second back? It looks as though he will. He gets his left knee out around the outside of Capirossi, and he does so. So Capirossi and that Ducati had the extra speed down the straight, but just couldn't quite hang on the brakes.
Now, we've seen that many times this season with the Ducati. Very, very fast indeed. Time penalty for Valentino Rossi. Absolutely on the ball there for Gavin down in pit lane. Rossi has obviously overtaken Marco Mandry when the yellow flags were being shown for the crash of Troy Bayliss. Rossi has a time penalty. This race is far from over.
Valentino Rossi's going to have to come in for 10 seconds and then rejoin the race, and it's debatable whether he'll be able to work his way back through this pack, because they are running at an extremely fast pace behind him. Here comes Loris Capirossi at the inside of Marco Mandry once again. Capirossi now up to second, and that's virtually the race lead for Capirossi, because as we know, Rossi is going to have to come in. Now they come down into the hairpin. Marco Mandry once again on the brakes. Marco Mandry back in front of Loris Capirossi. They head up into the long double left-hander that brings them back into the start-finish straight, and any second now Rossi surely will be told by his pit board that he has to come in.
This is the battle for the lead. It may look like a battle for second place, but Valentino Rossi has been penalised. He looks at his pit board. Now, does he realise what is happening? We're pretty certain, because he overtook Marco Mandry when the yellow flags were being raised, when Troy Bayliss crashed. Capirossi back into second place. Marco Mandry third. Sete Gibernau in fourth place. But this is going to be the battle for the lead, because the race leader, Valentino Rossi, has a 10-second penalty for overtaking under a yellow flag. A 10-second penalty for Valentino Rossi. That doesn't mean he's got to go into the pit. Just means 10 seconds, I would imagine, going to be taken off his time. Over to you, Gavin.
Yeah, but they haven't put a flag out for him to come into the pit, so it's just a case of, I assume, the 10 seconds coming off his time, which is what happened at Donington effectively, but he didn't know about it during the race. Many people argued that if he'd have known about it during the race, he'd have known to open up over a 10-second gap, and he'd have pushed it that little bit extra. Well, he knows about it this time, so there can be no arguments at the end of this race.
Well, it will be interesting to see now what the pit boards say down there. Marco Mandry up on the inside of Loris Capirossi, and Capirossi hits back. Well, the gap between Rossi and the second group stands at 3.56 seconds, as you can see there. And so Rossi is going to have to open up another 6.5 seconds over the last 14 laps if he's going to win this race. Mandry back in front of Loris Capirossi. What a ride this really is from the young Italian. It's hearts in mouth here. The patient Australian crowd have come down here this morning despite the pouring weather for the 125 and 250 races. It was brollies out, it was sou'westers out. Some people will have opted to stay in bed, and they'll be sorry if they're watching this on TV now, because the gap between Rossi and the rest of the gap and the rest of the pack is extending. But Nick, it doesn't look as though it's extending enough.
It certainly does. It's 3.7 seconds. He's got a 10-second penalty, don't forget, as they go round the left-hander. Capirossi second, Sete Gibernau third, Marco Mandry fourth. But as it stands at the moment, we don't want to confuse this too much. Loris Capirossi would be leading the race. Sete Gibernau would certainly be in second place. Marco Mandry would be third, and perhaps Valentino Rossi would be fourth or fifth. Now, can Valentino Rossi work this out in his head as he's going round the track? He's been docked 10 seconds because he overtook when the yellow flags were being waved. He overtook Marco Mandry when Troy Bayliss went down at the hairpin.
They're letting him know on his next time round. The pit crew didn't exactly know how many seconds he was going to be penalised, but they're now going to put on his pit board when he goes past that he's got -10 on the top of it, so that lets him know that how many seconds he has been penalised, and he'll know going through, and he'll just have to do the maths himself as he goes round.
Marco Mandry there getting past Sete Gibernau, but I think as they came over the top of Lukey Heights, Gibernau getting back on the brakes. Gibernau slight shake of the head. He can hardly believe what Mandry is doing on the brakes into that right-hand hairpin. It's something else to watch. Mandry riding out of his skin on the Yamaha. Now then, actually looking down the timesheets, that 10-second penalty for Valentino Rossi will put him in 7th place behind Carlos Checa. And here we're going to see it again, the yellow flags now. We can't see them on the picture, This is where he overtakes Marco Melandri, though. Look out for the yellow flags anywhere in the distance. There it is. The marshal clearly on the corner. And, yep, no complaints. There is that -10 that Gav was just telling us about on the pit board for Valentino Rossi. And as I say, he's now extended his lead over the chasing pack to 3.9 seconds. He's going to have to turn up the heat here and stretch it out by another 6 seconds to win this race.
If anybody can do it, he can. The biggest challenge, the doctor so far this season. Capirossi, second on the roads, but leading the race. Marco Melandri, third on the roads, but second in the race. Sete Gibernau in third place, but fourth on the roads. Nicky Hayden is coming back at him, and Nicky Hayden has got back in front now of Sete Gibernau. We have to be very, very careful how we commentate this. Let's just get it absolutely clear. Valentino Rossi, who leads the race on the roads, has been docked 10 seconds because he overtook when a yellow flag was being waved. His advantage at the moment is 3.9 seconds over Loris Capirossi. Of course, that's not enough to win the race.
They're now putting out on Rossi's pit board position 8. They're letting him know where he is after the calculations have been done. On Loris Capirossi's board, however, they're putting position 2, so they're not letting him know.
Oh, there's a man gone down there. That's Melandri. Marco Melandri, he was riding absolutely out of his skin in third place. He's gone down. What a brave ride from the youngster, but it's all ended in tears. It's in the gravel, and now then it's a clear second position, or first position, in fact, for Loris Capirossi. A gap to Gibernau and Hayden. Gibernau up on the inside of Hayden at the end of the straight. Gibernau now up to second position, remember. Gibernau now second. Loris Capirossi leading. Rossi out in front on the track, but down in 8th on the overall timing screens, and it looks as though Melandri could have hurt his arm there. Let's have a look at this.
Down he goes on the Yamaha, fast part of the circuit, the far part of the circuit, into the gravel, and it does look like he's damaged his wrist or his hand. We look at again, nasty high side, not too high in the air, but it's a very fast part of the circuit. And poor old Marco Melandri, he spent too much time in the hospitals, he spent too much time in those clinics. I'd be really, really interested, Gavin, I know it's hard for you, just to know what the other teams are telling their riders. You told us that Loris Capirossi wasn't being told that he's leading the race, but what about Sete Gibernau? What about Toru Okawa? What about Nicky Hayden? It's a very, very complicated situation.
Sete Gibernau's being told that he's second in the race at the moment, so he knows that at the moment. Valentino Rossi's about to be told that he's in third place, it looks like, on his pit board. They're right next to each other. All right, they're putting him up as being 3.4 seconds behind, but still, they're all trying to do the maths themselves down here on pit lane. It's obviously a very confusing situation. Nicky Hayden's being told he's in fourth, same for Toru Okawa, so no one really knows what's going on. What is clear, though, is that Rossi knows that he does have 10 seconds off his time.
Well, it seems as though Loris Capirossi knows it as well. Now look at Rossi, he's gone across with the fastest lap of the race so far, a 1:31.8. Capirossi responds with a 1:32.4, so Rossi takes off 0.6 there on that lap to extend his gap to 4.6 seconds with 11 laps to go. Loris Capirossi has just put some daylight between himself and this chasing pack of Gibernau, Hayden, Okawa and Checker.
Well, that's exactly what he's got to do, hasn't he? He doesn't want to get involved in this scrap, because obviously it's slowing the pace a little bit. He has a real chance here, Loris Capirossi, in strange circumstances of winning this race. Let's tell you, there's 10.5 laps to go. We've forgotten about the laps. Let's tell you, Valentino Rossi leads the way, but he's been docked 10 seconds for overtaking under a yellow flag. His advantage over Capirossi at the moment, 4.6 seconds. So Capirossi leads by over 5 seconds on corrected time. Capirossi, we think, knows the situation. Certainly Valentino Rossi knows the situation. I think these just behind him are going to slog it out as hard as they can. It's Gibernau leads Hayden, Toru Okawa just behind them, and Carlos Checker having a good ride on the Yamaha, tucked in behind them. His teammate is Nicky Hayden, goes up the inside of Sete Gibernau at the bottom of Lucky Heights. So Nicky Hayden up into third place on the road, but could be, or is, second place as the results go. But Rossi, with these sort of laps, is obviously going to change this situation.
Yeah, but he's still in 6th place overall, Nick. We're just looking at the lap times as they come across. Valentino Rossi, 1:31.7. Loris Capirossi, 1:32.3. So Rossi, for the second successive lap, takes 0.6 back off this chasing group.
Into Duan curve. Nicky Hayden in front of Sete Gibernau. Here comes Toru Okawa coming under pressure there from Carlos Checker. So Rossi out in front on the roads. Loris Capirossi second on the roads. And this is the battle for third place on the roads, but actually second place in the race. Here is Valentino Rossi. We're just getting news here of Troy Bayliss.
Yeah, obviously Bayliss there okay, but on his way to Melbourne to hospital for further checks. And that's a good sign for the Australian fans who are here and sat at home, of course, because Troy Bayliss, it looked very nasty, didn't it? And I think he was knocked out cold when he came off his bike because of the way that he just skittled across the gravel and then didn't move. And it looked pretty hairy there for a while, but thankfully Bayliss is going to be okay, and that's big news as well, of course, for his family back home in Monaco. His wife Kim recently gave birth to baby Ollie, and the other kids, Mitch and Abby, all watching this race in France on TV. Can't be here with their dad in Australia, and I'm sure their hearts were in their mouths when they saw that accident, but thankfully Troy Bayliss is okay. Nicky Hayden really carrying the charge now to the podium.
I think now is when we're going to see the best of Valentino Rossi. He knows he's got to push it. He's doing so, and he's got a soft tyre on the back of that bike. Gibernau and Nicky Hayden, they have a hard rear tyre, but Valentino chose to go with a soft tyre because of the cool conditions, I expect. And now he's really going to have to push it. There's people who've said that he hasn't had to push it as much as before, but now he really is going to have to push it if he wants to win this Australian Grand Prix.
We are going to see a super demonstration of the man, Valentino Rossi, but it's Nicky Hayden who's absolutely flying, and Sete Gibernau.
Sete Gibernau's got past Hayden actually at the end of the straight there, so Gibernau back up to second, Hayden drops back to third, and it really looks as though these four, Gibernau, Hayden, Ukawa and Checker, will fight it out for those remaining remaining podium position. And one would imagine that Rossi's going to start to come back through now. Actually, the gap between Rossi and Capirossi stands at 6 seconds, but the gap between Rossi and this chasing group is about 9 seconds. So with that 10-second penalty, that would place the ghost of Rossi, if you like, 1 second behind Carlos Checker and improving all the time. So really, you would imagine that Rossi very, very soon is going to be back in front of this group in the cosmic race that's going on a higher plane. And Nicky Hayden in the real race is giving Sete Gibernau all sorts of problems, but Valentino Rossi, as I say, he's around 10 seconds ahead of this group. He's level with them really on overall times because of that 10-second penalties. Hayden back in front of Gibernau in the hairpin once again. It's all very confusing, but at the end of the day, it's a case of Rossi. He's got to extend his lead over Capirossi by another 4 seconds over the next 8 laps.
That's absolutely right, because he is going to catch these men, isn't he? There's no doubt about that. He might have even caught them as they come over the start and finish line now. Whoa, the gap between Rossi and Capirossi, 6.6 seconds, so he's trying all he can. But Rossi is now up into third place, because the gap between him and Nicky Hayden is now 11 seconds. Up into third place, straight fight.
Up into second place.
Sorry.
Yeah. Straight slog going on behind him there between Hayden, Gibernau, Ukawa and Checker, but yet Rossi would be in second place behind Loris Capirossi as it stands at the moment. The gap between Rossi and Capirossi, 6.699 seconds. That gives Capirossi a 3-second advantage, just over 3-second advantage over Rossi overall with 8 laps to go.
They're now going to tell Valentino Rossi on his pit board that he's up into second position. They didn't let him know in the last couple of laps where he was, but now they're going to let him know that he's done the hard work, he's back on the podium, and he just needs to keep going because he's taking time out of Capirossi all the time.
It certainly is. We ride with Turo Okawa. You just see in front of him Sete Gibernau and Nicky Hayden. There's Hayden, Gibernau, Okawa coming under increasing pressure from the Yamaha there of Carlos Checker. But Rossi now back into second place. It's a straight fight between the Ducati and the Honda, but it's not a straight fight because poor old Loris Capirossi, who's second on the roads, is not really racing against Valentino Rossi. He's racing against the clock. It's very, very hard for him. It's easier for Rossi, one would imagine, who's just got to keep going as fast as he can. And this is Rossi, you've got to say, at his absolute best. He crosses the line. 7 laps to go. What's the gap now?
Rossi with a 1:31.593 on that lap. Capirossi with a 1:32.440. The gap stands at 7.5 seconds. So Valentino Rossi takes almost a second off Capirossi there on that lap. Here comes Gibernau up on the inside of Nicky Hayden once more at the end of the straight. Now watch out for Nicky Hayden through this section, and particularly in the 2 hairpins. The Honda corner and then at the bottom of Lukey Heights. That's where he's really liked to pass Gibernau over these past couple of laps. Let's watch. And they come into the first one round this long left-hander. And into this hard-braking right-hander. Nicky Hayden not close enough this time. Okawa, in fact, is closer. Okawa up on the inside of Nicky Hayden, so Hayden caught out cold in the right-hand hairpin.
They're letting Capirossi know that he is in first place, but as well that his lead is diminishing. That's what's going to be on his pit board when he goes past now.
Great stuff, Cav, because we really are across this race. It's very, very hard to follow, but there we are. There is the race leader, not on the road, but on overall time, but his lead is being whittled down metre by metre, yard by yard, mile by mile by the world champion Valentino Rossi. When they cross the line, we get a better idea, but Rossi is reeling him in. Very, very hard for Loris Capirossi because he hasn't got anybody to aim at. He's just got to go as fast as he can. Rossi knows he's got to pull back that time. Rossi has crossed the line.
1:31.587 for Rossi on that lap. Now what's the gap between him and Capirossi? It's 8.8 seconds. Surely Valentino Rossi is going to win this race. He's taken another second off Capirossi on that lap. This is sensational stuff from from Valentino Rossi. He's lapping under previous pole records here at the Phillip Island circuit. It's a sensational performance. Chris Burns there, the Newcastle rider, is about to get caught up by this pack. He's been lapped already by Valentino Rossi. He's just going to run that machine wide and let these guys through. But the rate that Valentino Rossi is going, he's going to win this race. He's got 5.5 laps left to go. He's taken around a second a lap off Loris Capirossi in second place. What a ride from the world champion.
Just a word for the people who are filling up the point positions. Kenny Roberts is going to get his best finish of the season if he keeps where he is. He's in 9th position. Jamie McWilliams has just been passed by Makoto Tsunoda and Gary McCoy, but they're all there, 10th, 11th, 12th positions. John Hopkins just behind them. They're all there in the points, and that's good work for all those teams here at Phillip Island.
All eyes now focus on the doctor. The 24-year-old Italian, Valentino Rossi. Throw what you can at him. 10-second penalties, weather, seagulls, anything else, it doesn't matter. He just goes on winning MotoGP Grand Prix racing. You are just watching the master in action. He crosses the line with 5 laps to go. He could be leading the race on corrected time.
We'll wait and see. Could be after the way he's been going the last few laps. Rossi with a 1:31.655 on that lap, so he's getting faster and faster all the time. Capirossi a 1:32.7. Rossi takes out another second off Capirossi's time, and the gap now 9.962 seconds. Rossi within just a couple of hundredths of a second off the race lead once more.
What a race this is for third place. Toru Okara's got up the inside of Nicky Hayden, chasing Sete Gibernau. Gibernau third, Okawa 4, Hayden 5, Carlos Checa in 6th place. This is settled now. We know this is the battle for the final position on the podium. Corrected time doesn't matter anymore. And Valentino Rossi is surely going to win this race. Sete Gibernau. And this is a great ride by Toru Okawa. Perhaps he won't be in MotoGP next season, but he's certainly going out with a bang. There is the Kawasaki of Gary McCoy, who leads the way in 11th place from Jeremy McWilliams. Good points for these two riders. McCoy easily his best ride of the season in front of the home cow, and Jeremy McWilliams improving every time out on that 4-stroke Proton KR machine. Behind them is John Hopkins, behind them Noriyuki Haga, Andrew Pitt and Colin Edwards. So these smaller factory teams doing a good job against some of the bigger teams in MotoGP racing.
Yeah, certainly. You're talking about Proton there doing well against the likes of Suzuki and Kawasaki. That's certainly the case. Of course, that machine only brought in at round 4 of this series, and it's already going quicker than their 2-stroke machine at this circuit last year. And it looks as though we've lost Carlos Checa. We have Carlos Checa out of the fight for the podium, and Speedway style spins his Yamaha around there, and that's not too effective wheel spinning across the wet grass there for Checa.
Poor old Carlos Checa, what a disappointing time he's had this season. His teammate Marco Mandry looked well set for a 3rd place out of the race when he crashed out. Right, this is the long left-hander that brings us back into the start and finish straight. I'll bet my house on the fact that Valentino Rossi is winning this race.
He certainly is. He's winning it by 0.392 seconds. His lead over Loris Capirossi, 10.392. The 10-second penalty knocked off. That means Rossi is just in the lead, and he's still going quicker than Capirossi. A 1:31.973 from Rossi, a 1:32.403 from Capirossi. But the thing is now that what we sometimes see from Rossi is when he's built up a lead like this over the last couple of laps, we can afford to drop his times off showboat for the crowd. He certainly can't afford to do that here.
He certainly can't. Just to remind you, he's been docked 10 seconds for overtaking under a waved yellow flag. I think it was the accident of Troy Bayliss when the yellow flag was out. He overtook Marco Mandry, and he's been docked 10 seconds. It doesn't matter. He's got a 0.392 second advantage now over Loris Capirossi in second place. This is the battle for third place. It has raged throughout between Sete Gibernau, Toru Okawa and Nicky Hayden.
It was a collective sigh of relief in the Repsol Honda garage when he went through that time, and it was confirmed that he was leading the race. He goes past now they know he is in the lead. On the laps previously, every time he was getting closer, everyone was up on the toes, but no, he wasn't there. But this time, they could all breathe easily because Valentino Rossi is leading this race now and looks set for another victory.
Yeah, he just extended that lead to 1.290 seconds over Loris Capirossi, 11.290 seconds out there, 1.290 on the revised times. And this is going to be a real gloves-off stuff now for the fight for third place between Gibernau, Okawa and Hayden, all on 3 Hondas. Gibernau on that number 15, Okawa on the number 11, and Nicky Hayden on number 69.
All riding for different teams, all riding the also-familiar winning V5 4-stroke 990cc Hondas. Important races, certainly for all of them, as Okawa goes up the inside there of Nicky Hayden. But a very important race for Toru Okawa. Sete Gibernau settled for next year. Nicky Hayden, I'm sure, is settled for next year. Toru Okawa, his future in MotoGP is a little bit clouded. And if he can finish on the podium, that's going to do his cause an enormous amount of good.
Watch out for Nicky Hayden here as he comes up on the inside of Toru Okawa. He likes this section of the circuit over Lukey Heights as they come up into the left-hander. And then he's very strong on the brakes as they come down the hill. Let's see if he can get close enough to Sete Gibernau. I don't think he is this time. Into this right-hand hairpin. Okawa closes right up on the rear wheel of Hayden, and there you can see the gap now. That gap is going to be a bit different. It's 11.290 seconds. We told you that on the last lap. 1.290 overall. What's the gap this time?
Rossi has crossed the line. We still wait for Capirossi with 2 laps to go. He crosses the line now. The gap, 12 seconds on the road, 2.589 seconds over corrected time. Valentino Rossi 2 laps away from his 8th Grand Prix victory of the season.
Toru Okawa and Nicky Hayden side by side into the fast right at the end of the straight. And Okawa now back up to 4th place from Hayden. Hayden round the outside of Okawa though, shuts him off. Great riding from Nicky Hayden. Hayden up to 4th. He doesn't want to let Gibernau out of his sight. Hayden has got his first Grand Prix podium in his sight with 2 laps to go, and he needs to hold off Okawa so that he can battle with Gibernau.
Round the fast left before they come up and brake for the slowest part of the course here at Phillip Island, the Honda hairpin. Second gear right-hander. Gibernau safely through. They're coming up against the back markers. I think it's probably Chris Burns or David De Gea. It looks like one of the WCM machines. They're going to arrive very, very fast indeed in a minute. 1.5 laps to go. This is the battle for the last place on the podium here at Phillip Island. Sete Gibernau 3rd. Nicky Hayden looking very threatening in 4th place, and Toru Okawa just dropping off a little bit in 6th.
Watch out for Nicky Hayden now once again as they come over Lukey Heights. I said on the last lap he liked it coming into this right-hand hairpin. Will he try it on Sete Gibernau? Is he close enough? Not quite. But if Hayden can stay there for this last lap and he can hold off Toru Okawa and make sure that he doesn't concede ground in 4th place, and I would expect him to make an attack on Gibernau. If not before, then certainly at that point of the track as they come down from Lukey Heights into that right-hand hairpin.
Just a word from Marco Mandry. He led this race at a part of it. He's in the hospital. He's hurt his right shoulder. He's going for x-rays on a possible broken right leg, but they don't think it could be that bad, but he's having scans on it. Just a word from Marco.
Well, let's hope Marco Mandry is okay as this battle still rages for 3rd place. They are coming up against the back markers. I think it's Sete Gibernau's teammate they've actually had to go past, and he moved out of the way very conveniently. So Sete Gibernau 3rd, Nicky Hayden 4th, Toru Okawa in 5th place. We just got a glimpse of a very lonely Loris Capirossi in 2nd place. Valentino Rossi is going to win the race, but who is going to finish on that 3rd step of the podium? 3/4 of a lap to go as they break for the hairpin.
Nicky Hayden is right where he wants to be. They've shaken off Toru Okawa on this lap, and that's just what Hayden wanted. He's right on Gibernau's tail, and as they come up through Siberia now, this fast left-hander that brings them up towards Lukey Heights, he will be ideally placed as they come down into that right hairpin. It would be the ideal chance for him to take Sete Gibernau and clinch his first MotoGP podium. He looks to have the extra speed as they go up over the top. Nicky Hayden is now up to 3rd. He's done it a bit early now. Sete Gibernau fights back. Has Gibernau got enough as they come round the left? and down into the dip. Nicky Hayden will look to shut him off.
Certainly will. Down the dip they come of Lukey Heights. Hayden in third place, Gibernau in fourth place. No way through there for Sete Gibernau. Valentino Rossi has won the Australian Grand Prix here at Phillip Island. Second place is going to go to Loris Capirossi, a lonely second place for the Ducati ride. Who is going to take that final position on the podium? Capirossi crosses the line now in second place. Is it Hayden or Gibernau?
It looks like it's going to be Hayden. Gibernau looking for the slipstream as they come down the straight, but Hayden has the speed. Hayden takes his second podium in MotoGP. Gibernau fourth, Ukawa fifth, and then a long gap back to, I think it's going to be Olivier Jacques in sixth place. But Tadej Okada, Mick Doohan, the rest of the Honda team down there on pit wall. The two Repsol Hondas both on the podium. Trevor Morris there, crew chief for Nicky Hayden. It's been a good weekend for Trevor Morris. He likes it in Australia. He says it feels like home. It's like being back in England and Manchester where he's from. Loris Capirossi, excellent ride for him in second place.
Yeah, very difficult ride for him because it was all so complicated, wasn't it? All he could do was ride as hard as he could, but, well, how many more times have we got to say it? This man, without a shadow of a doubt, is the greatest motorcycle racer in the world at the moment. Perhaps the greatest motorcycle racer of all time. Valentino Rossi, they took 10 seconds off him for overtaking over it. The yellow flag was being waved. I think probably when Troy Bayliss crashed, he overtook Marco Mandry, but he is still there, Valentino Rossi. Throw 10 seconds at him, throw anything at him, and I think now that is a memorial to the late Barry Sheen being shown by the race winner, Valentino Rossi, as his teammate, Nicky Hayden, celebrates third place.
What a superb ride that was from Nicky Hayden, and what a last lap. This is the pass on Sete Gibernau. I didn't expect it to come here. I don't think Gibernau expected it to come here either. He was probably expecting, like we were, the late braking into the hairpin at the bottom of Lukey Heights, but it's over the top that Nicky Hayden gets him round the fast right-hander, and that was a superb ride from the AMA former Superbike champion, MotoGP rookie, and well, he's deserved it, hadn't he? He's got stronger and stronger all season. A few doubts from some corners about Nicky Hayden's ability, but he's cast those to one side here this weekend, that's no doubt. And a poignant celebration from the world champion, from one to another. We lost Barry Sheen back in March to cancer, but his memory lives on here at Phillip Island.
Sete Gibernau, well, I think he's scored more points now than any other man that's finished second in the World Championship, but he's off the podium in fourth place. I can tell you now, he won't be happy. Well done, Loris Capirossi. That was a very, very strange race for you indeed. I think he's just asking about Troy then. I think he said Troy, and the news is Troy Bayliss has been taken to hospital in Melbourne. He's not thought to be seriously injured, and that is very good news because he went down very, very awkwardly indeed. But he's done it again. As I say, they've taken 10 seconds off him. They've tried to make life difficult for him. The weather wasn't very good when he woke up this morning. It doesn't matter. As Matthew said, memorial to a great world champion from a tremendous current world champion. Valentino Rossi remembers the late, great Barry Sheen.
Hugs all round for Nicky Hayden and his team as they welcome him back to Parc Fermé. A fantastic ride from Nicky Hayden, and if there was any doubts about the validity of his podium in Motegi, he now can shake off those doubts, enjoy the champagne for the first time on the third step of the podium.
And also congratulations to you, Gav. Absolutely amazing. You called that yellow flag before anybody else, and fantastic. We knew exactly what was going on up here, and I hope that came over to all the viewers throughout the world.
There's going to be a party on Phillip Island tonight in the Repsol Honda camp, I can tell you that.
We know where it is, don't we? We're not telling anybody else. Not hard to find in the little island of the little town of Cows on Phillip Island. I tell you, there's going to be some celebrating tonight. Some thick heads on that British Airways flight from Melbourne to London tomorrow for this team and this man, Valentino Rossi, and his teammate, 22-year-old American Nicky Hayden. And I think Valentino Rossi really is quite emotional about it, because where will it end?
It's just a superb ride, wasn't it, from the world champion? And it was. They should do that every week when he takes a lead like that. It makes it a lot more interesting, doesn't it? Pushing and pushing and pushing and riding that bike to the absolute limit. And the Australian crowd here, after such an ominous-looking morning with the storm clouds and everything else, have been treated to an absolutely phenomenal MotoGP race. We've had them in the past here at Phillip Island. This was one of the best, and this was Valentino Rossi at his best. And I'm sure now Nicky Hayden there in the background is going to have a word for him as well, because when they watch the tape back here tonight, they're going to enjoy every minute of it.
Valentino Rossi's actually getting some stick from his friends as he goes over and he's greeted by them. He's giving a little bit of stick for having caused that penalty, showing him the yellow card, but in the end he's done the work necessary.
But you're down there with race direction, Cap. Could you have a word with them? Say, Valencia, we could do with about 20 seconds off in Valencia, I think, just to make the race more exciting.
I'll see what they say.
Well, there's Rossi and his manager there with the grey hair and sunglasses, Gibo, who's currently allegedly negotiating with pretty much everybody in the paddock about next season's whereabouts of the world champion. Will it be Yamaha? Will it be Ducati? It won't be Ferrari, that's for sure. And no matter what you've been reading in the papers, Rossi is happy in MotoGP. And, well, it remains to be seen whether he'll look for a new challenge at Yamaha or Ducati next season. And if he rides anything like he did today with that disadvantage.
I'm just down here with Nicky Hayden at the moment. Nicky, if there were any doubts about the podium in Motegi, there can be no doubts now. You can go and enjoy that champagne.
Yeah, no doubt. Feels pretty good. It was a good race, and you know, I led a little bit there for a few laps. I was just a little excited, but overall, I'm pretty happy. I mean, bike worked good, and it was early on. There was a little bit wet spots, and made it really challenging, but I didn't want to hold back. I just wanted to go for it the whole time. And last lap, I had to give it a go on Sete, and I felt really good there. I knew he had a couple crashes in that one corner, so thought maybe I could stick him right there where maybe he didn't feel so good, and just hold him off to the line.
Were you aware of Rossi's penalty at all?
No,
He penalised 10 seconds for passing Marco underneath the yellow flag, so all the race was being knocked off 10 seconds, so you weren't aware of that out on track?
no, not at all.
But you rode just the same anyway and got that podium position. You must be delighted.
Yeah, I'm happy. I just want to thank my team and everybody who believed in me. You know, when I got the opportunity, a lot of doubters, and had a tough go early on, but I just kept my confidence and believed in myself. And now every week I'm getting stronger and stronger. And just want to thank Honda and Repsol and all my team and all my sponsors for believing in me.
Well, congratulations. A lot of people in America will be congratulating you. Well done, Nicky.
Well, there was definitely a shake in his voice there, Nicky Hayden, wasn't there? And it's an emotional time. It's a tough world, MotoGP, especially when you've been knocked like Nicky Hayden has this season, undeservedly so. And, well, he's produced the goods here in Australia today. One round to go of this MotoGP World Championship. Can Nicky Hayden challenge for victory in it? That's at Valencia in 2 weeks' time. There was a crash there early in the race, and looked like David De Gea's bike set on fire, in fact. We didn't see that during the race. But this was a moment of concern. Troy Bayliss, as you can see, knocked unconscious when he was flipped from his Ducati and laid face down in the dirt. Luckily, Troy Bayliss was okay. Out on the track, what a ride it was from the two rookies, Marco Melandri and Nicky Hayden. That was the key moment in the race. Valentino Rossi passing Marco Melandri under a yellow flag. He was given a 10-second penalty, and that meant that he had to get out the front and stretch out his lead as best he possibly could. Behind him, Melandri, Hayden, Capirossi, Gibernau. What a race it was between them. Fantastic entertainment, especially between the two rookies, Hayden and Melandri. Hayden running it wide there. It seemed as though his podium chances may have gone. He fought back extremely well. Melandri, meanwhile, he couldn't quite hang on. He went down on the Yamaha. The news is that he may have a broken leg and certainly an injury to his arm there. Valentino Rossi riding the Honda to the limit at the front to try and extend a gap of 10 seconds over Loris Capirossi. That's what he had to do to win this race. Capirossi, of course, had to stay in touch with the Italian to try and win. Gibernau and Hayden then battled out for third spot. Toru Okawa became involved in the latter stages of the race as well and gave Nicky Hayden and Gibernau something to think about, but it was Rossi who rode supremely at the front, stretched out that lead to over 10 seconds. Nicky Hayden left it until the last two laps to produce his best effort in MotoGP. It was Checa who ran off. He was out of the podium fight, but Hayden hadn't given up. There he was in fourth place. He got Sete Gimeno around the outside and up into that right-hander. What a move it was from Hayden. An absolutely majestic win from Rossi. An excellent second place from Capirossi, smoking that Ducati around the final entry into the start-finish. And a quite thrilling performance from Nicky Hayden to take third. Valentino Rossi, victorious at Phillip Island, and he dedicates his victory to the late, great Bayliss. Well, as you can see, the crowds at Phillip Island are beginning to file up towards the podium, where they will enjoy the podium celebrations of Valentino Rossi, Loris Capirossi and Nicky Hayden on there for the first time, and that champagne, I'm sure, will feel good to Nicky. Two Italian flags and one American flag sit atop the podium at the Sky Vodka Australian Grand Prix. That Stars and Stripes flag's not been seen for a while, not since Kenny Roberts.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you'll agree what a sensational race the Sky Vodka Australian MotoGP, and a battling fight all the way to the finish. For third place, Nicky Hayden of the USA on a Honda.
Nicky Hayden takes to the podium for the first time in his Grand Prix career. The MotoGP rookie stands on the rostrum for the first time. He finished third at Motegi, but he didn't get to celebrate with the champagne there. I'm sure he's going to enjoy it this weekend. Loris Capirossi back on the podium after an indifferent spell on the Ducati. And once again on top of the podium, the world champion, the Doctor, Valentino Rossi.
And to collect the trophy for the winning constructor for Repsol Honda, Australia's Jeremy Burgess.
Barry Sheen remembered by Valentino Rossi on his victory lap and on the podium, that famous number 7. Who could forget?
Michele Mancini, area manager for Campari Group.
So Nicky Hayden accepts the prize for third place, and I'm sure that plate will be taken back to Kentucky over the winter and have pride of place. There's his dad, Earl Hayden, down in Parc Fermé with the chief mechanic, Trevor Morris. They've worked hard all season. Loris Capirossi, second for him, and a good result for Ducati.
And the winning constructor, the Honourable John Pandazopoulos MP.
But it's 21 consecutive podiums for Valentino Rossi. He could equal the record of Giacomo Agostini with 22 at the final round of the 2003 season at Valencia. I'm sure that's not on his mind at the moment as he celebrates victory at the Sky Vodka Australian Grand Prix. Well, it's long been his favourite colour, yellow, hasn't it? Valentino Rossi robbed him of victory at Donington Park, but it was going to do nothing to stop him at Phillip Island this week. For the third time today, we listen to the Italian national anthem. The Champagne girls get a good squirting from Valentino Rossi, Nicky Hayden and Loris Capirossi. The champagne flows at Phillip Island. It will continue to flow long into the night before the big trip back to Europe and the final race of the 2003 season at Valencia in 14 days' time. A hug for Nicky Hayden from the world champion himself. It's not been easy being across the garage to Valentino Rossi this season for Nicky Hayden, but he's come through it well. And if Rossi does decide to move next season, that will give Hayden a big chance of some more champagne on the podium next season. No doubt about that whatsoever. Maybe even a World Championship challenge for Hayden. He's been touted as a world champion in a couple of years' time by Rossi's crew chief, Jeremy Burgess, and by Mick Doohan as well. Big talk from big people in this MotoGP paddock about a big talent in Nicky Hayden. But once again, the Australian crowd will be left with the memory of another famous victory and a few souvenirs from the world champion, Valentino Rossi. I think everything but the kitchen sink has been thrown down from the podium at the moment. They're looking for anything that's not bolted to the floor, except the helmet.